So the other side of spiritual growth we want to look at is the more intellectual side. So, what's the other aspect of spiritual growth? What do we experience? In a single word. Objectivity. Very good. So what is objectivity? One of the ways that we can answer what this question is by asking another one, why do you enjoy a tragic movie? A Romeo and Juliet, a Titanic, or a horror film? Has anyone seen Hereditary? Marvellous, terrifying. How come you can enjoy that terror in the movie theatre or that heartbreak in the movie theatre?
You're separate from it.
You're separate from it. What makes you separate?
You don't identify.
You don't identify with it. Or, in less philosophical language, because it's just a movie. Why am I okay? Why do I enjoy watching Romeo and Juliet? It's just a movie. Why am I okay to watch Hereditary? Because it's just a movie. Now, it looks like the formatting's off, right? No, the formatting's not off. It's not that it's a movie, is it? Because if you take let's say for some reason or other, you've taken your 6-year-old niece to watch Hereditary. It's a bad move. But nonetheless, you've taken her to watch it. She's watching the same movie you are, and she's experiencing those same emotions of fear, but you're experiencing enjoyment and she is suffering. But it's still just a movie, isn't it? So what's the difference?
You know that it's not real, but she doesn't.
Exactly. Because you know it's just a movie. Merely the fact that it's a movie is not enough. You have to know it. So this is what gives us that objectivity. Knowledge of higher values. This is what we're talking about here. So this word knowledge does not mean information. We're talking about insight. So identification with higher values is the way that he puts it. So when we talk about this word values, what do we mean? What is a value? We all have values, whether we know it or not. What are values? Belief. Yes, fundamentally a value is a belief. If I say, for example, I value community, what am I actually saying?
I care for it.
I care for it. It's a synonym, yes. I believe it can provide me with well-being. Fundamentally, our values are our beliefs. So now we want to talk about higher values. What's a higher belief? I'll give you an example. Here is a belief. Money makes happiness. It's a belief. A person can live by that. Is it true or false? Neither. Who said neither? Very good. If you think money can't make you happy, go down to Venice Beach. Tell the guys living homeless down there, money can't make you happy. Yeah, stop panhandling. But nor is it that the more money I get, the more happy I become. So it's got some truth to it, but it's not fully true. Swap it out for a different belief. Money has a limited and diminishing capacity to bring happiness. Aha, that's more true. Yes, it can bring some happiness. The notion that not having money doesn't affect my well-being is absurd. But the notion that the more money I get, the happier I become is equally absurd. So it has some limited capacity to bring happiness. It is a more accurate representation of the truth of my experience. It is a higher value. So when I know that money has a limited and diminishing capacity to bring well-being, my relationship with that particular area of life changes. So one other belief, one other value, one other principle is that nothing is permanent. So we have this next poem, even this shall pass away. Once in Persia reigned a king, who upon his signet ring graved a maxim true and wise, which if held before his eyes, gave him counsel at a glance, fit for every change and chance, solemn words and these are they. Even this shall pass away. And then he goes on to the different areas of life. When we have, not just as information that we can all agree with when we're sitting in a format like this, but when we have as insight within our personality that nothing is permanent, what happens when we come across the beautiful side of life? When we understand that everything is impermanent, then when something good comes into our life, we recognize this is impermanent. I'll enjoy it while it's here, but I know that at some point it will leave. And so I am not inclined to grip onto it and try to hold on to it. Lady, fairest ever seen, was the bride he crowned his queen. Pillowed on the marriage bed, softly to his soul he said, though no bridegroom ever pressed fairer bosom to his breast, mortal flesh must come to clay, even this shall pass away. My beautiful wife lying next to me on my bed will come to clay at some point. So you're familiar with the saying, enjoy it while it lasts. Now that's normally given in a very cynical framework. Oh, you've got a good job? Enjoy it while it lasts. Turn it around. I have this beautiful thing, which is impermanent. Let me enjoy this while I have it. There's a great exercise. I recommend you try it. Find out what your average life expectancy would be. Multiply that by 12, and then print out on a piece of paper one circle for every month, and then take a Sharpie. Cross off every month that you've already lived, and see how many dots are left over. It's a very clear and very stark appraisal of just how much time you've probably got left. Now you can start to get an appreciation for what you've got, because my God, there are more dots with crosses than without, for some of us, not for all of you. When you recognize the impermanence of your own life, you will start to appreciate what you've got. Enjoy it while it lasts. So to the negative side of life. Fighting on a furious field, once a javelin pierced his shield. Soldiers with a loud lament bore him bleeding to his tent. Groaning from his tortured side, pain is hard to bear, he cried. But with patience day by day. Beautiful. When the bad side of life comes, you don't get caught up in it. You recognize this will pass. Ill health, bad times in a relationship. All relationships go through ups and downs. This will pass. So you can move through it with more grace, because you have that abiding recognition. This will pass. So we develop emotional resilience in the face of the inevitable changes in the world. Profit and loss at the material level, pleasure and pain physically, happy and sad emotionally, honor and dishonor. This is the other aspect of spiritual development. So imagine for a moment the different areas of life that we have that challenge us. Health and body. What course of study should I take up at university? What career should I take up? Romantic life. Family obligations, media and technology, culture and politics. Imagine if you, forget you, it's easier to think about with others. Think about your nieces and nephews, your children, your grandchildren. Imagine you have a 14-year-old son or daughter at school. If they had greater emotional resilience because of their objectivity, if they had a greater sense of empathy and oneness for the people around them, how would they relate to social media? How would they relate to the political situation that we're currently facing in our country, in the world? Social responsibility, ethics and morality. If I feel a duty of care for my fellow beings, what choices do I make? If I don't need to be constantly fed emotions by my spouse, what's my relationship with him or her like now? Aging and death. We're all going to face that moment. Sooner or later, the party's going to end. Or as the great Christopher Hitchens once said, the party doesn't end, the party's going on, but you have to leave. We're all going to face it. We're all talking about having a good life. What have I done to deserve this beautiful life? Forget a good life. How do you have a good death? What does that mean? How do you get there? Imagine shuffling off this mortal coil with a sense of love for all of your fellow beings, with a sense of emotional resilience for this inscrutable mystery. How do you get there? So these are the effects, and they are applicable at all levels of life, in all stages, hence the name, Sanatana Dharma. I don't think I've heard Sanandaji use it yet, but this is a phrase that we often use as a synonym for Vedanta, eternal principles. For everybody at every stage of life, in whichever circumstance you find yourself, we will benefit from greater empathy and greater self-sufficiency. All very well and good, but how do you get there?